The Shape Game. Anthony Brown. The Shape Game. Anthony Brown. Picture corgi. I was a little boy and didn't know what to expect. It was my mother's idea that year for her birthday. She wanted us all to go somewhere different. It turned out to be a day that changed my life forever. Dad, Mom, George, me. We went on a train to the city and then had a long walk. There was an important match on the telly, so I knew. Dad and George didn't really want to come. George spent most of the time trying to trip me up, and Dad told us some of his jokes. Why do gorillas have huge nostrils? I don't know, said George. Because they've got huge fingers, said Dad. All his jokes were like that. When we got there, the place looked really posh. I felt a bit nervous, and even George and Dad were quiet. At first. What on earth is that supposed to be? Asked Dad. It's supposed to be a mother and child, said Mom. Well, why isn't it? Said Dad. Mom took us into a large room that was full of old paintings. Boring, said George, and Dad told him to shut up. I thought it looked boring too, but I wasn't sure. George leaned against a picture and one of the guards came and told him off. So Dad told him off too. It wasn't a very good start to the visit, especially for George. John Martin, the great day of his wrath. Dad tried to cheer him up. Did you hear about the fool who keeps going round saying no? No, George mumbled. Oh, so it's you then? Dad said, laughing. George wandered away. Augustus Egg, Past and Present Number 1. Mom talked to us about a painting of a family. Does it remind you of a family we know? Asked Mom, but she was smiling. She said that the father was holding a love letter written to his wife by another man, and that there were lots of clues in the picture that told us more of the story. So we all worked it out. Adam and Eve were thrown out of paradise after Eve was tempted to eat the serpent's apple. The mother also was tempted by the other man. In the mirror, we can see an open door showing that the mother will have to leave home. Portrait of the mother. The children's house of cards is falling down, like their happy family life. The broken ship is abandoned by its crew, and the man also feels abandoned by his wife. Portrait of the father. Portrait of the other man. The bad half of the apple, like the woman, has fallen on the floor. The woman has fallen to the floor because she's so upset, and the bracelets on her wrists are painted to look like handcuffs. It's gone, gone forever, I tell you, said Dad. What has? I asked. Yesterday, said Dad. British school 17th century, the Chumley ladies. Those two are just the same, I said. Well, not exactly, said Mum. Look more closely. Spot the difference. These pictures are not the same. How many differences can you see? John Singleton Copley, The Death of Major Pearson. In the next room, George called, Hey, look at this, it's great. Do you think so? Said Mom. Can you imagine that really happening in our street? Sir John Everett Millais, The Boyhood of Raleigh. Does that remind you of anything? Asked Mum. It reminds me of Dad telling us one of his jokes, I said. So there are two sausages sizzling in a pan. One sausage looks at the other and says, Phew. It's hot in here. And the other one says, Oh no. It's a talking sausage. George Stubbs, Horse Devoured by a Lion. Now that's what I call a painting, said Dad. Look at that lion, it's so real. And it was. Peter Blake, self-portrait with badges. Peter Blake, the meeting or have a nice day, Mr. Hockney. Did you hear about the little boy they named after his father? Asked Dad. No, I said. They called him Dad, said Dad. There was a loud silence, but we all started laughing when we saw a painting of a man who looked a bit like Dad. It was time to go, and on the way out we called in at the gift shop. All we bought were these. We walked back to get the train and everyone was in a good mood. When we got to the station, Dad asked, "What did Batman say to Robin before they got in the car?" "Oh, all right then," said Mum. "What did Batman say to Robin before he got in the car?" "Robin, get in the car," replied Dad. "Come on boys," said Mum. "Get in the train." On the way home, Mum showed us a brilliant drawing game that she used to play with her dad. The first person draws a shape, any shape, it's not supposed to be anything, just a shape. The next person has to change it into something. It's fantastic. We all played it for the rest of the journey. And, in a way, I've been playing the shape game ever since.